1 p.m. Pacific Time and 4 p.m. Eastern Time for the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Ready to heal, grow, and awaken to your highest self? Join the Self-Healing Codes with Dr. Tracy on Transformation Talk Radio every first and third Friday at 9:30 Pacific. Release trauma, activate your power, and step into self-mastery. Each episode is a powerful activation guiding you back to the truth of who you are. You are not alone, and together we will heal. Learn more at tracytrimble.ca. That's Tracy with an I, trimble.ca. Tune in and transform.
Have you ever faced a situation where you weren't quite sure how to handle it with poise, confidence, and grace? Of course you have. We all have. Well, tune in to the Change Mastery Show with me, John J. Murphy. Together, my co-host, Dr. Pat, and I will introduce you to a different way to think about change. Not as something to fear or resist, but as a gift. Join us the second Wednesday of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Subscribe, share, and start your journey to mastery at johnjmurphy.org.
Want a speaker who can inspire your audience and keep them laughing and learning all in the same moment? I'm Erica Gummany, and that's exactly what I hope to do when blending personal stories, deeper spiritual insights, and practical wisdom with a whole lot of humor that keeps everyone engaged. My intention is to create safe, transformative spaces where real growth and connection happen. Book me to speak or facilitate something amazing at yourpivotalpoint.com.
I'm Tristan, a shaman, astrologer, and human design reader. I help unravel spiritual ideas to create change and growth in your life. Whether you are just beginning or need a knowledgeable best friend with the next phase of your journey, I'm here to help. Think of me as your pragmatic shaman bestie. I work with high-vibe, lovely people like yourself in personalized sessions that will leave you with a sense of clarity that energizes you to make impactful change. Connect with me, your pragmatic shaman bestie, at musingsandmodalities.com.
Hi, I'm John J. Murphy, and I welcome you to the Change Mastery Show with my co-host, Dr. Pat. Together, we invite you to think differently about change, not as something to fear or resist, but as a powerful opportunity for growth, empowerment, joy, and life mastery. My vision? To help millions of people shift from victimhood to leadership, from ego to spirit, and from hesitation and resistance to flow. This is an opportunity for you to get out of your own way and experience life with more courage, confidence, humility, and higher purpose. Get ready. The Change Mastery Show starts now.
Coach on the planet. But more than that, a person that understands change to the point and the multidimensional nature of it, which includes a spiritual journey for those of you thinking, I got my checklist and I got my goals. Okay, great. But today's show, in the Change Mastery Show, today's episode, I think John was channeling me. Troubling relationships. Maybe you got any? Y'all, troubling relationships, make a change. Great. Sounds easy. John, how can we go about this? Because I'm going to pick up on what you said in the opener. I want flow. I want the juiciness to slide and glide of life with this. I do not want to agonize or procrastinate in pain.
Yeah. Well, what you want is innate to your essence. Flow is happening whether you allow it or you don't. So the real mastery is in allowing it, recognizing that everything's flowing, everything's changing all the time, right down to the cellular level in your body. Nothing stays the same. So, if you're in a mode of resistance, whether it's a relationship with your job, a relationship with your partner, a relationship with your house, a room that you walk into, you can feel it if you're paying attention. So, I talk about the 4 steps to inner peace. Let be, let go, let see, and let flow. Let be is about get in touch with the present and how you feel in the present. And if you don't feel good in the present, something's off, because we're meant to feel good. We're meant to live in joy. We're meant to just flow. And if we're not, there's a reason for that. And the reason's in the mind. It's nothing out there that's causing you pain or disruption or suffering. You just think that's true, okay? Because you don't understand how to use your mind as the tool that it is. So the mind wants you to think that you're the mind. That's the ego, right? And the ego is going to cause you stress your entire life. But when somebody says, I changed my mind, those words a long time ago, when I first heard them, really got me to stop and think. I changed my mind. Who's I? Who's actually saying, I changed my mind? Because it's not the mind. All right. So that's where we start to really get in touch with who we are, and not just who, because that's a personality, but what we are.
Yeah.
And the mind wants us to think that we're human beings and that the brain controls everything and it's all material and it's tangible, and our essence is intangible. So when you start to think about, how do I relate to anything, to the city that you live in, and if it doesn't feel good, you have to make a choice. Do I stay here and suffer and give up whatever? Or do I make a change?
Yeah.
What do I do? And the problem is that most people on the planet are what I'll refer to as settlers. If you think about a bell curve, a statistical bell curve. I have a
Love
slide on
them.
this.
I love them.
Yeah, I have a slide on this that I use in my lectures and workshops. And on one end of the curve is about 10% of the population or so are pioneers. Pioneers, if you think about that word, they're bold, they're brave, they're courageous, they're going to go out where nobody's been before and explore and discover new ground. They're innovators. In the middle, the bulk, the 80%, are what we refer to as settlers. They settle into wherever they are. They just settle. And then at the far end on the other side are what we call the CAVE, cave people, and they complain about virtually everything, or cynical about virtually everything, CAVE. We dismiss that. No matter where they are, they complain. The settlers, though, are what we're really talking about, because they just give up. They give in to whatever's going on. So they live in places that don't really excite them. They're in relationships that don't really excite them. They're in jobs that don't really excite them. So they settle. And change mastery is not about settling. It's about mastering change. And how do you master anything? You do it a lot.
No
You want,
kidding.
you
No,
want to
I
master
totally
change?
agree.
Practice making change, right? So,
And it's
we can
bold,
talk
though,
about all
John,
kinds of
isn't
things.
it? It's bold. Let's talk about bold for a minute, because I want to stay with this for 1 second. I want to go back to your definition of change in energy. So I want to touch upon that for a minute, energy, because that's what we're really talking about in a sense, right? You change your mind, great, and now you're showing up throwing pool balls at your neighbor. So I want to talk about this for a little bit, because I don't know when we compromised our joy, our happiness, but people are doing it now and they are miserable, John, right?
Yeah, misery loves company. So all they do is attract more misery into their lives. That's energy. That's frequencies. And I'll talk more about frequencies here in a few minutes if you like.
Yes. Now bring it in to the fact where you are not on your own planet and I do not have my own planet. And now we are in relationship, our job, our in-laws, our family, our spouse, our partner, whoever, our children.
Yeah, well, I'll
This
just
is
tell you.
there's an area for growth, don't you think?
Yeah, for a lot of people, no question about it. But how do you really lead effectively? You demonstrate, you show people. You don't, it's not theory. I live an incredibly joyful life. I've had my ups and downs over the years. I've been in 2 marriages and I said enough, okay, and moved on, let go. So you got to let go to let flow. I've been to jobs I don't like. My first job out of college, I was bored silly after a couple of years. So what did I do? Sacrifice the rest of my life to be in a career that just didn't turn me on? Just put in and for the paycheck and just plow through it and get through the day. I can't imagine a life like that, but a lot of people do it. You know that, right? They just sacrifice. Think about this. If you go back to even biblical teachings, I think it was Ephesians 5:22, 5:24. I'm no expert in this, but essentially it said, wives, subordinate or submit yourselves to your husbands. Just make sacrifices. In India, you have arranged marriages. In Greece, you have a culture, an ancient culture of submission. So women in particular are, the paradigm is surrender your joy, your happiness, and do the dishes and clean the clothes. And I mean, what kind of life is that? But those are cultural tenets that people are raised with. So you start to say, at what point do I say enough? And I'm done with that. And we live in an opportunity to do that right now. I love the story of Anita Morjami. I don't know if you know that name at all, but she's one of the most world-renowned near-death experience speakers on the planet. And long story short, Anita grew up Indian, had an arranged marriage. And at the last minute, she abandoned it. She said, and she threw her family into, her father never spoke to her again, basically after that. It was an embarrassment to the culture. And how could you run off like that? But she said, I can't, it's not my dream in life to just submit to my husband, who I don't even know. So we have all these, we have all of these different reasons, is my point, to sacrifice our lives, submit. I grew up in church learning to that I wasn't worthy and that life is all about sacrifice. So you're supposed to sacrifice, right? And no, wrong. You don't have to live a life of sacrifice. You have every right to pursue your dreams and live those dreams and make changes if it's not working for you. And I said I'd come back to vibrational, energy and frequency. And I speak a lot about that on the show, as you know. And I'd like to share a screen, if I might. Just, you've heard me talk or reference the map of consciousness by Dr. David Hawkins, the late David Hawkins. And the map of consciousness, what David Hawkins basically did is he, let me pull up share now. Here we go. I think I got permission. Yep. So you should be able to see that. Can you see that all right?
Yes. It's coming
Okay.
through perfectly.
Good. So the map of consciousness, this is a tool that I was introduced to, a long time ago, probably 15, 20 years ago. And David Hawkins, MD, PhD, world-renowned speaker, he's long past now, but he developed this, and using a scientific method called applied kinesiology, he was able to figure out how to measure the frequencies of 17 different feelings, if you will. And you can see at the low end here, shame is the lowest measured frequency. This is a scale of 0 to 1,000. So up at the far right, where it's an enlightenment, you see 700 to 1,000. That's a range levels of enlightenment, if you will. So, for example, the Buddha calibrated at 1,000, very highest level on this map, and he could map and test people, living and dead. He could map, and it's all through electromagnetic connection with the field of consciousness, if you will, the field of information. He could calibrate jobs, songs, foods, animals, books, essentially anything. It's all energy. And all the great physicists have said this for a long time, especially now with quantum mechanics and such. So if everything's got a frequency, and we're in a situation where something's just not jiving with us, so to speak, I use the metaphor of it's like trying to like a song that you just don't like, or a genre of music. You just doesn't work for you. Or a movie on TV, a scare flick, or something that's just like somebody says, "Oh, I love that movie. You got to see it. It's fantastic." And then you watch it and you go, "Are you kidding me? What?" Right? Those are frequencies. So we all have a frequency. And so when somebody walks into a room and you go, that person lights up the room, there's actually evidence of that scientifically. Now, you might not actually see the aura, the light, but we're basically light beings. If you take us down to the cellular level, inside cells are molecules, inside molecules are atoms, and inside atoms are light particles, photons. So we're literally beings of light. And what's going on with this body? What's going on with this brain, this mind? And if we are vibrating with thoughts in our mind that make us feel ashamed, we are at a very low, dense frequency. And like frequencies attract like frequencies. So people who are stuck in a shame mindset, or apathy, or grief, or guilt, if you look at the lower frequencies, misery loves company. We've heard that over and over and over, maybe through our lives. It's true. That's not theory or philosophy. As Einstein would put it, it's physics. So what do we do if we're in a relationship that's miserable? What if we're in a partnership with somebody and they're just griping about this and that? They're the cave person, so to speak, cynical about virtually everything. It weighs us down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It just feels heavy. And so we have to make a choice. We're making choices every second of every day. Right now, I'm choosing words to use. I'm choosing thoughts to express. We're making choices every single day. So if we start to understand that there are consequences for every choice we make, that's karma. We start to think about, what are the consequences if I stay in a relationship that's just draining me of energy?
Wow.
Right? Do I sacrifice the joy I'm entitled to just submit? That's a choice. You can do that. You can do that. I don't tell anybody what to do. I just help them understand the consequences of their choices and the alternatives that they have. So, yeah, I think I told this story, Dr. Pat, but my first job out of college, I'm working in corporate finance in Chicago. And after 2 years, I'm pulling my hair out. And I thought, what am I doing here? I thought I did everything right. I got good grades in school. I went to a great university at Notre Dame. I got a great job for a great company in Chicago, and I was miserable. I didn't feel the joy of life until I got out of work. And then I was like, let's go to happy hour. So, so yeah, long story short, I had to really think about, do I submit or do I make a change? And this is over 40 years ago. I decided to change not just jobs, but companies, cities, state, industry, and I threw a marriage into it. So talk about change in a rapid period of time. In less than a year, I made all of these changes. And you were talking earlier about changing, moving from the West Coast to the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, change is disruptive, right? There's adjustments we have to make. But I know this is that when we actually take a risk, and you look at the yellow line crossing the chart right here on courage.
Yeah.
When we have the courage to say, I'm done with ego, because all those lower frequencies are ego frequencies. You could call them human frequencies, fear-based frequencies, duality, dualistic frequencies. The ego thinks in terms of right and wrong and us and them and good and bad and win and lose. We're surrounded by ego. You see it on TV every time you turn the TV on. Drama, news, sports. It's all divisive. This against that, Republican, Democrat, one team against another. We're programmed with that mindset, and many people don't realize I can change the channel anytime I want. But it takes guts. It takes guts to get out of a bad relationship, whether it's with your job, your boss. It's, you know what, I need to move from Seattle to New York for whatever reasons. I'm done with a lousy marriage or relationship. It takes guts. But in spirit means inspired, which means fearless. I am not going to let fear get in the way, because fear is, we've talked about this too, it's self-imposed, it's self-created. It isn't the lion or the tiger that scares us. It's what we think of the lion or the tiger. And the minute we think they're going to eat us, it triggers fear, the hormones start going crazy, and we run like hell.
Yeah.
So is that not that we run into lions and tigers every day, but when we approach the day, are we afraid of what might go wrong? What might go wrong? So my point being is it takes courage to say enough. By the way, sometimes people don't have the courage to quit a job.
Yeah,
So
I
they
know.
end up getting, and then they end up getting laid off or fired, and then it's the best thing that ever happened to them.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, when we're in a mode of uncertainty and we step out of a relationship, we make a change, that very move stimulates creativity and it gives us a sense of adventure. So now all of a sudden we discover potential we didn't even know we had. We can figure this out. In 1988, I left a corporate job and started my consulting practice. I didn't know what I was doing, but I figured it out along the way. I still figure things out along the way. It's available to all of us once we realize we're not stuck unless we choose to be.
I
Right?
love this. I love this phrase, and I love what you're talking about. We're going to take a short break. And the reason I love this conversation is we started this out. For those of you that are just tuning in, I just want to be very clear. You're going to get a lot of information on John, how to work with him, how to catch up with what he's doing. But this show is called the Change Mastery Show for a reason. And today, troubling relationships, anybody out there? Okay, make a change. And we're giving you examples. Now, John, you and I are not very different, right? Although my story was different. I was homeless. Doris Stoner gives me a job, puts me in the mailroom. I get in the mailroom. I earn my right to get out of the mailroom. They tell me I was the longest back in the day to call a mail girl. I was the longest mail girl in the history of Bell Labs, okay? And I just couldn't get it. But here I go, and guess where they put me? When we come back, I'm going to tell everybody what department they decide to put me in. And what in the world did I do about it? Did I have the courage for that yellow line? What did I do? Did I worry? Please keep in mind I was 17. Let's take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back. boy, does this feel like good times today. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. I love it. This is a show that's going to invite all of you to open up your heart because it's about dreams coming true. There's a road we get to take as we craft out and we lay a course that's in service of so many others. Sometimes the universe, God, whatever you believe in, have you ever wondered why, but better than why, or how the universe knows how to line things up in a way that gets you ready for the most expansive part of who you're going to become? This is the time to change. And gratitude, leading with love, opens up more expansive possibilities than you can imagine. Crust busting your way to an awesome life. I want to thank you all for tuning us in, turning us on transformationtalkradio.com.
Have you ever faced a situation where you weren't quite sure how to handle it with poise, confidence, and grace? Of course you have. We all have. Well, tune in to the Change Mastery Show with me, John J. Murphy. Together, my co-host, Dr. Pat, and I will introduce you to a different way to think about change. Not as something to fear or resist, but as a gift. Join us the second Wednesday of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Subscribe, share, and start your journey to mastery at johnjmurphy.org.
Are you a coach, consultant, or CEO who is ready to scale like $1 million leader? Then it's time to make your next big sales move. I'm Carissa Atkins, founder of the Alpha Queen Collective, where we help ambitious women master high-ticket sales, attract premium clients, and lead their empires with unshakable confidence. If you're ready to sell with ease, market with impact, and step fully into your CEO power, head over to www.alphaqueencollective.com.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Yes, this is the Change Mastery Show. John J. Murphy is the host of the show. I'm Dr. Pat. Okay, I love this, right? Because everybody's talking about 2026 and the year and a year. Okay, here it is. Are you in a troubling relationship, folks? Just saying. You know, when you sat down and you write your goals down on the piece of paper, did you totally blow off that troubling relationship just thinking, I cannot make that change? You know, every other goal in the book, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to buy the red dress. And then you're miserable in your relationship. Well, John is going to continue talking about that. Before we do, what is the best way, John, for people to find out about you, please?
Yeah, well, through social media, author John J. Murphy on Facebook and on YouTube. I've got a couple hundred YouTube clips that are available to everybody for free on a variety of different topics. On LinkedIn, I'm John J. Murphy Mystic, and my website's johnjmurphy.org.
I love
Find
it.
me through all of those, yeah.
Yeah, can't hide from us, John. Okay, that little story, here's the story. Get this great job, 17 years old, Doris Stoner, my hero. She didn't know why she was hiring me after 48 days out of my senior year. She didn't know I was just homeless. Gives me a job, and I go to the mailroom. And my mailroom term, they give me my first promotion to the library of Bell Labs. My job was to be quiet all day long and file books according to the Dewey Decimal System. 2 weeks is all I gave it. And I ran back down to Doris Stoner and I said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. This is like the worst job on the planet. Long story short, Doris Stoner says to me, God, your timing's impeccable. You know why? Because it's a job that's open that nobody else wants. In payroll, in Bell Labs, a room of 50 people. And John, I was in that room. I rotated up from the lowest job to the highest over a 10-year period.
Yeah.
But what would have happened if I couldn't ask for that?
Yeah, well, that's where courage comes in, right? You have to you got to be in touch, first of all, with your your desires. What is it you really want in life? One of the exercises I do, in fact, I'm leading this, I've got a webinar this Friday, actually, called Fearless, and it's through Fuel. You can find it on my social media, but in Fearless, we talk about what does it really take to get beyond doubt, if you will. So, and the exercise we're going to be talking about this week is to draw a picture of yourself 5 years into the future. And that picture, when I say draw a picture, not just what do you look like, physically, what do you feel like? What are you doing? Who are you with? What's your vision, if you will? Are you making twice as much money as you are now? All your debts paid off? You're as fit as you've been in a long, long time, maybe ever. Your social relationships are phenomenal. You've got great trusted friends, and you've left behind people weighing you down. It's just not a good vibe. What do you feel like emotionally? If you spend just a little time, because I've been doing this for the last almost 40 years, drawing a vision, if you will, of what I see myself doing. And if that vision really excites you and it generates a vibration of enthusiasm and inspiration, you'll get it. The problem is, a lot of people draw a picture like that, and if I really challenge them to stretch, come on, what is it you really, really want to be doing and feeling like and looking like? What's your bank account look like in 5 years? Be real specific. And what happens, Dr. Pat, is people, well, maybe they'll do that exercise and then they're immediately going to go, but I could never do that. That's me. And that's that subconscious mind coming out saying, see, you're not worthy. You're not deserving. You have to make sacrifices in life. That's programming that some of us have been downloaded with since we were 3 or 5. And we carry it through our lives until we learn how to delete it. So whatever you feel and think between now and that 5-year vision is your greatest task and could be your greatest barrier in life. Because if you don't think you're deserving, that's the root cause to your not receiving. If you think you have to go through, remember, we've talked about paradigms. If your paradigms or your beliefs, your programming, subconscious programming is telling you you're not good enough, you're too old, you haven't got enough degrees, you should go back to school. It's all ego programming. At some point, you got to have the courage to drop out of school. Say, my younger brother dropped out of college and said, I'm going out to Hollywood to see what I can do. Ends up a few years later nominated for an Emmy. Okay. And this is coming from a family where college was a must. You're going to college. And, he had the courage to say, not me. Not after a couple of years. He went for a couple of years and said, this isn't working for me. Anytime a person's in I'll call it just a bad vibe situation, you got to really examine that and say, either the person I'm with elevates their vibe, or if we find a match, that's a possibility. But that didn't happen, Dr. Pat, in either one of my marriages. We just grew apart. And I was, to go back to the map of consciousness, I was determined, here, I'll pull that back up. I was determined to ascend, if I can use that word, from pride. I had a lot of pride, but a lot of people will say, well, what's wrong with pride, John? Because I'd rather be proud than angry or grieving something or afraid. But think about it this way. Pride is dualistic. It's my school versus your school. It's my team versus your team. It's dualistic. So it's the highest vibration of the ego mind, but it is nowhere near fearless and in spirit, if you will. So I'll talk just a minute too about the two emotions, if you will. And like A Course in Miracles teaches that there's only one, and the one true emotion is love with a capital L, unconditional love. So if we all come from love, which is a divine energy, and we are afraid, it's because we're denying who we are. We're not recognizing our true essence. So the ego's getting in the way. So all of those frequency sees at the bottom 8 are all fear-based ego frequencies. And that's who we think we are. We think we're this mind, this persona, this job title, this body, this look. It's all ego. It's all illusion. Because beyond that, we're much more powerful beings. And so once we start to recognize, I can leave all of that ego behind. In other words, I can now take control of my mind. My mind is no longer going to control me. I'm going to use my mind while in human form as a tool to direct me with my relationships with people to expansion, to higher levels. So it takes courage to say, I'm done thinking that way. I'm done with this anger thing that I have. I'm done with the lust and the desire and the attachment and all the stuff I have or I've collected. How many people do you know who are really successful in life on the surface and lots of money, great big houses, fancy cars, Christmas cards that come out and they all look great and happy, but behind the curtain, they're miserable.
Yeah, Robin Williams was he was one of the greatest examples that I could think of, and was most shocking to me, right? His passing, because on the surface, come on now, it's always a smile, it's always a joke.
It's right. Think about how many celebrities you'd think, wow, they're famous people. They've, made millions and millions of dollars. And they're miserable.
Yeah.
They're just miserable, including comics.
Yeah.
If you literally watch, a lot of comics are very cynical. Okay. They complain about virtually everything. They're actually cave people who are funny. And, but behind the curtain, they're suffering. And why do we suffer? Because of this, we talked about this on the last show, because of the assumptions we make, the paradigms we live in. And in some cases, we think we're supposed to. We're sinners and we're not worthy. And so therefore we go through life believing that and not realizing that we come from love, capital L. By the way, capital L, love, means true unconditional love. It's not ego interpretation of love. The ego interprets love, small l, I call it, like, well, I used to love you, but now I don't anymore. You fall in and out of love. That's not love. Love's unconditional. Love is driving your wife to the courtroom for the divorce and then taking her out for lunch afterwards, which is exactly what I did after a 26-year marriage and 4 kids. Okay, that's unconditional, fearless love. And when you reach that level of, I don't have an enemy on the planet, every day is pure joy, despite what's going on around me. Okay, despite what's going on around the world, I don't tune in to anything I can't change. I can't change what's going on over in the Middle East. I can't change what's going on in Washington, D.C. So why would I worry about that? Worrying only attacks me. Worry wears me down, shoots the stress hormones all over the place, the cortisol, the adrenaline. It accelerates aging. And by the way, stress makes us more stupid. That's science, by the way. That's not just an opinion. When we are stressed out, we start tripping all over things. You see it in the scare movies. It's actually, if somebody gets scared and stressed and they're running along and of course, they have to fall down you know, and really. But it's true. When we get stressed, our blood rushes to our limbs so that we could run fast. The adrenaline kicks in. And guess where the blood's coming from? The brain, to a large extent, the head. So now we literally, when we're super emotional, we say a lot of stupid things. All right. That's just the way the body operates. So once a person realizes, I can live at the high end of this map of consciousness. Once a person realizes that and just says, you mean I can live in utter peace. All right. Enlightenment's another step up. By the way, we all have the capacity to be enlightened. It isn't something that comes from out there. It's already innate in us. We just have to uncover it and let it be. And in other words, we get in our own way. We get confused by the ego mind, and we think we're that. When in fact, once we delete a lot of those programs, we live in the light. We live in joy. We live in peace. We see past the clouds to the blue sky that's always there. We see past the darkness to the light that's always there. So if you think about love as light, there's no opposite to light. There's only the absence of light, which translates into darkness. There's no opposite to love, capital L love. There's only the absence of it, which is dark, which is ego, which is fear. So the absence of true unconditional love is fear. And once we can get out of our own way, by the way, if you want in one word, a great strategy in life, it's called forgiveness. But it's capital F forgiveness, not small f, because the ego says, well, I forgive you, but I was right and you were wrong, but I forgive you. That's condemnation, not forgiveness. Or I'll forgive, but never forget. Nope, small f. True unconditional forgiveness and love is like it never happened.
Yeah.
It's gone. Let it go.
Yeah, it's so interesting you're bringing this up. This is true. I had a friend that shared a story with me a week or so ago and said, my sister called me. I said, okay. Yeah, my sister called me and said, I'm going to forgive you, Patty, everybody. And my friend said, oh. And the other person said, because God told me to. And so the conversation kind of just died right there in that moment. Nothing else said, no love, right? It wasn't gone the way you described it, John. It wasn't gone.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, the other person that heard that, that's where the letting go had to happen. It's like, I don't even know what happened just here in the conversation, but I got to let that thing go.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what.
Yeah,
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that's going to happen on anyone's path toward enlightenment, toward a life of pure joy and bliss, is the loss of friends and family and people who aren't interested in that journey or are stuck. It's oil and water. You're going to no longer have common things to talk about, no longer have common interests. It's like a fish out of water. You're just, no matter how hard you try, you're not going to like that song anymore. It's just, nope. So what are you going to do? You're going to just try to like it, try to get along, try to figure out, I know couples that have been married 50 years, they don't live together. In some cases, they don't even live in the same state. They stay married for whatever reasons, but they don't like each other. But then they can say, we're married for 52 years. Like somebody cares. Are you happy? Are you enjoying your life? I happen to believe, and I teach high performance teamwork. I think you know that. And
Yes.
the term there, the measure is called synergy. Synergy is when you add one and one together and you get something greater than two. And the greater the synergy, you might get three, you might get five, you might get 10. So when we put a team together, we get a much greater energy or synergy. I like to call it the genius of the team. Nobody has to be a genius on the team, but when you really come together and align and thrive as one, you come up with all kinds of amazing things. That's energy, by the way. And the key there is alignment. We've pulled together. It's like an orchestra. You know, a great orchestra, they play as one. And you've got what, 50,
Yeah.
60 different instruments,
Mhm.
and they play as one. When you're in harmony in a relationship and it feels just beautiful and synergistic, you know you got a good fit. So I had to write my own job description in 1988 to find that fit for me. I I didn't want anybody else writing my job description. So at age 28, married with very little money and my second of four kids on the way, and a wife that didn't work outside the home, I started a consulting practice. That's crazy. Really? Right? And I started it with two other guys and they both quit within the first 6 months. So now I'm on my own. And what do? Give up and go fold back into, I don't know, some job description that bores me, or maybe find something that doesn't bore me and excites me. But the point is I think of life as a journey, as an adventure. No one knows what's going to happen tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
But if we're on this adventure and we're willing to explore and pioneer a little bit, and we might just discover certain avenues that are absolutely amazing. And I think if we get on that journey with a 5-year vision, a direction that we want to go, and we start to really go through life enthusiastically, that's a huge frequency. When we are eager and enthusiastic and inspired, we're well on our way to enlightenment and
Yeah.
bliss, right? So I just ask people to think about that. How excited are you about about this year? Take 2026. Are you worried? Are you anxious? Are you nervous? Or you just bring it on? You know what? Bring it on.
I'm with you. And I love that we're talking about this because there are multi levels of relationships. And you're right about it. I mean, you and I both know people and we see them maybe in public and we're not sure why they're together or how they're together. And then you see them in public on how they're together. But I want to go back to a couple of things that you talked about because you brought up 2026 and you asked the question, right? Let's talk about how we can help folks be a little brighter, see a little brighter, and crank up a more positive future right now. Because this is really part of the work you do. And let me just be clear a minute. You work with companies. I work with companies. They also want to be brighter. They also want to be more positive. So, what do we want to share today? Because, yes, all eyes are on this year for some interesting reason, but there's an energy about possibilities. Help us. Help us move this along, John.
Yeah, well, think about it this way. Everything at the end of the day is about relationships, not just the relationship you have with yourself and your line of work and the people around you. But if everything's about relationships, Einstein once said the field is the sole governing agency of the particle. We're particles, all right? We are drops of water in the ocean. We are all connected. There's all kinds of scientific evidence of that. We are all connected as one, like the symphony, and we don't know it. We think we're all separate. Again, that's back to ego. So as we approach 2026 and we think about, maybe we're nervous about AI and it's taken over the world, all this stuff, whatever. That doesn't help. Doesn't help to be afraid. In fact, it just makes things worse. Fear draws in more fear. So how do we change the channel? we start looking at the relationships we're in, and we surround ourselves with amazing people. We dump all the cave people. We say goodbye to those things and people weighing us down, if we truly want to live a life of joy. Otherwise, your choice is sacrifice and fear and going through life with the brakes on. So you're talking about somebody who's got no doubt about it. I'm going to move forward and onward and upward. I mean, I can't imagine going back to where I was. I see my brightest years in front of me, not behind me. I don't care about the trophies and the medals I won back when I was a kid. I don't care about the degrees, and I don't, you know what? One of the things about letting go is letting go of the past. It's gone. There's nothing you can do about it. Good, bad, ugly. Forget about it. If you want to think about anything but the present, think about the future. And notice when you think about the future, how you feel in the present, because it's always about how you feel in the present that draws in more of the same. So if we are thinking of the future and we're afraid AI is going to take over the world, 2026 is going to be a disaster year. The governments are, we're going to World War III, whatever. If that's your projection, because you have no evidence that that's true, that's an assumption. And if those assumptions are driving fear in your body and in your mind and anxiety and stress, the only one you're hurting is you. The only one you're hurting you. So how do you change relationships? You change your mind. And you say, I'm going to find better relationships.
Yeah.
Incidentally, one of the most important success factors in my life and my career is tuning into brilliant people. If you want to be brilliant, you want to be successful, you want to be the best at something, whatever it is you want, that's your vision. Find people who are doing it and listen to them. And that's so easy to do now with podcasts, webinars, books on audio. And the people that I listen to, a lot of them died 1,000 years ago. You don't have to look far to listen to Socrates and some of his teachings, or Plato or Aristotle or Jesus or Buddha or Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching. I mean, I listen to all of this. And by the way, all of that has frequency. So when you tune into the frequency of other people who have high frequencies, it brings you up. It brings you up. That's huge. When you tune into the frequencies of cynical people who complain about everything, it brings you down. The field is the sole governing agency of the particle. The field is the culture that you're in, the environment that you're in. It has an energy. And if it's an energy that's depressing and angry and egotistical and critical and argumentative and judgmental and backstabbing, anything like that, we've all been there. Get out. Get out and find people, and it can be virtual. It can be virtual, and reprogram your thinking to a higher level. If you have a real set of good role models in front of you, and you continue to bring your mind to that level, you cannot help but ascend. Okay. But just beware, as you ascend, you will upset lower energies. Yeah. They're going to go like, what happened to you? How can you be happy? The economy's falling apart. How can you be happy when, we're bombing Venezuela? I mean, how can you be happy about that? I'm happy for no reason.
I love this. You're right about this. And I want you to bring this home here at the end. When I got sober and made the decision to get sober after a long time drinking, I mean, that's a whole nother show about how that started at birth. But when I made that decision, I made it. And the people around me were like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? How are you going to be able to come to the bar? Well, here's the news flash, folks. No, you cannot keep operating the way you were operating with some energies you got going on there that just couldn't put the drink down. You got to make some change. But nobody around you understands that. And sometimes, John, you have to do it anyway and make the change.
Yeah, that's right. And the more you make change, the more you begin to master it. How do you get good at anything? Change mastery is about practice. And by the way, you make as many mistakes as you do successes, if you will. So, when you step up to a baseball plate, you're going to strike out once in a while, and then you're going to get a hit now and then. But the worst thing you can do is not step up.
Wow.
Stay in the dugout and just hope life gets better.
Yeah, I'm just not a dugout girl. Just saying about that one. John, thank you so much for today. But again, can you remind people of the seminar that you're doing and anything else, please? What's the best way to find out?
Yeah, so I have 2 webinars. Every Friday, I have one called Fearless. It's a 30-minute webinar through Fuel, F-U-E-L, and the website is myfuel.io. So MyFuel, it's a phenomenal digital online learning platform on its way to become like the Netflix of e-learning and education and performance training. I'm one of the instructors there. So Fearless is every Friday, and every third Monday, I share the platform with a couple of great people, Fuel instructors, and that's called Mindset Matters, and that's on Mondays. So it's really about mindset. It's about Fearless. And then, of course, we've got this show, Change Mastery. And like I said before, I've got all kinds of stuff on YouTube that people can check out.
Thank you for taking this conversation on. Thank you for the way you presented it. And, you and I, of course, have something in common. Power versus Force was a book that was given me. That was the inspiration for me to put down the drink. Not because it was a book on just about addiction, but it was a book on possibilities in a future that I didn't know was available to me. Thank you for reminding all of us.
Yeah, Power versus Force. That's David Hawkins. That's one of his many books, David Hawkins.
Yeah, I must tell you, when I got the book, it really was a bit over my head, but even today, I read it once a year, every year in January. I reread it. John, thank you for everything. Last question. What do you want to leave us with? Little personal message here.
You want to up your game, surround yourself with people who've already been there and done it. Listen to them, and you don't have to even know them. David Hawkins had a massive influence on my life. Never met him, but I listened to his teachings, read his books, and tune into a higher frequency, and you can't help but get there as long as you stay there long enough to change your own.
Yeah. John J. Murphy, everybody. I am Dr. Pat. See y'all next time.
Thank you for listening to the Change Mastery Show with John J. Murphy, an opportunity to uncover, explore, and experience the path of transformation and illumination. Join Dr. Pat and me on the second Wednesday of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Never miss an episode. Subscribe, like, and share with your friends. Connect with me on social media. And for questions, comments, or to explore my books and services, visit johnjmurphy.org. Until next time, be the change you want to see in the world.